Good morning, everyone. We are Group 4 for Needs Health Course 666 was here. We are Jing Tian, Audra, Brian, Josh, and Jia Xuan. Today, we are going to present about impact of film in cultural. Our cultural element will be fashion in 1940s era. Next slide. As a way of mass communication, film and television communication also plays a subtle role in the process of entertaining the masses on clothing fashion. The costumes, hairstyles, makeup, etc. of the characters in the films are affecting the audience fashion concept. Especially some fashion films are based on the modern society, as well as the costume of the characters are not different from those of the masses, accepted by the public, which can affect the aesthetic taste of the audience as well as affect the popularity and spread of clothing fashion. Next, we will talk about the film 1, Life is Beautiful.
I'll be talking about this Italian film. Italy is famously known for their craftsmanship and luxury materials, but they focus more on comfortable and versatile clothing. Italian fashion powerhouse are from Dolce Vita to Prada, Versace to Valentino. French fashion was a major influence to the Italian fashion. After World War II, American money was poured into Italy to revive the economy. When the war ended, fashion gradually came back to the picture. The Italian fashion industry benefited tremendously from this. The key to success of Italian fashion is that they are well made and yet practical and temporary. Italian daywear began in America. They set the tone for ready-to-wear collections from fashion houses today. The impact of Life is Beautiful on society. During the 1940s, fashion easily differentiates class. One can distinguish the affluent and the poor through what they wear. The prison wear portrays the misery and suffering the people experienced during captivity. It showcased the lifestyle of the rich and famous during those times of conflict, pain, and suffering. Film and TV productions have different ways of designing costumes. The fashion in Life is Beautiful refers to clothing accessories of the character's appearance in the film, works under the background of modern society. Since the setting is modern society, therefore it can be a reference for fashion designers nowadays. The next slide is the scenes. This film is about a family surviving a concentration camp during World War II. Before the war, the male character Guido falls in love with a teacher named Dora, and they got married and had a son. The father and son were taken to some concentration camp, and the wife, who's not Jewish, went to follow them because she couldn't stand being apart from her husband and son. These scenes show the clothes differentiates the upper and lower class. The upper class shows their status by dressing elegantly, and the lower class shows their status by coarse clothes. Next, I will pass over to Joshua and Kelvin.
So I wanted to tell you about the Coco Chanel next. So French fashion culture. So first we must know about the French fashion culture. French fashion culture is about elegance, style, and simplicity. Fashion plays a significant role in the French economic and cultural scenes. It's same like brand Coco Chanel, like the Chanel, and then Dior, and also Louis Vuitton and Givenchy. So for the French fashion culture, they must have a first elegance. Of course, the brand a lot have elegance and style and simplicity on the French. Next slide. So, how about the impact of Coco Avant Chanel on society? So, in the 1940 fashion, also called utility clothing, features square shoulder, slim hips, and skirt that ended just below the knee, excessive for the period. It's like about they are a reminder about the post World War II period. And then also you can see, given magnitude of the Second World War impact on humankind, we do history, they are doing history, and ignoring fashion relevance. Fashion, would argue, is the ultimate representation of generation life in that time. Next slide will be Kevin.
For this scene, show the film tells the story of a legendary Coco Chanel who lived by sewing, worked part-time in a bar and sing, and dreamed of making hats for French upper class. This biographical film focuses more on the history of Chanel fame. However, in order to make the transformation of Chanel identity, although Chanel clothing in the film does not deliberately highlight the design, it also suddenly shows Chanel's personality and fashion attitude. Striped shirt, tweed shirt, these dresses are still leading the fashion trend today, are all derived from the design and improvement of Miss Chanel. Although Chanel is expensive, not every girl can afford it, but the idea behind the brand that women should be independent, confident, and not subordinate to men is worth learning. In the conservative 19th century, Coco Chanel advocated feminists. In order to liberate women from the shackles, they changed the excessively gorgeous fashion of women clothing and advocated a distinctive men's style. And next, pass to Jing Tian and Brian for the third film.
In our third film, we are going to do Last Caution. Next slide. Chinese fashion culture is cheongsam. Especially you can see a lot of cheongsam in Last Caution. Cheongsam is originated from Dynasty Qing. Cheongsam is a kind of Chinese woman's clothing rich in ethnic costumes. It is a traditional gown for Chinese women. It was dressed by banner men in the Qing dynasty. After the revolution of 1911 and modern improvements, the traditional dress craftsmanship of cheongsam is retained, making it more suitable for the human body. Next slide. During 1940s era, it is the true age of cheongsam. In 1940s era, qipao became extremely restrained. Sweeping hemlines of the 1930s era were reduced to mid-calf or knee length. High collars were lower. Sleeves became non-existent in the summer. Materials, trimmings, pancourts, as known as knotted buttons used on qipaos, also all became very simplistic. What remained was simply a tight singlet, revealing the neck, arms, and calves. After the end of the Sino-Japanese War in 1945, Shanghai regained its pre-war opulence and the glamorous 1930s qipao made its return. In fact, it returned tighter, shorter, and with even more variation. The 40s era qipao became even more fit, and hemless crept up to the knee from the calves. Beside all the different fabrics and trimmings tried and tested in the 30s era, sequins, beading, and lace also became popular. In the brief 4 to 5 years until 1949, qipao gained its widest reach ever in China. It became so popular that almost every urban woman owned several in her wardrobe, no matter who she was and how she looked. In this period, using zippers to fasten the dress rather than just pancourts were also first created. The heyday of cheongsam was in the 1940 era. High sleeves began to appear gradually, and short cheongsams gradually appeared. In the past 20 years, although it has been 20 years of wars, it is also 20 years when cheongsam has become popular and the people will wear cheongsam. In this environment, the styles and types of cheongsam are also endless. The clothing of the 1940s can be said to fit perfectly, but it is still flat cut. Only the arc on the waist shows woman's slim body. The feature of cheongsam in 1940s era are fit, diversified fabrics and can better express the female curve and more body parts exposed. Next slide. Chinese clothing from 1930s era till now, qipao has become into fashion since then. During 1930s to 1940 era, dress is further westernized, tailored to flatten body shape. During 1940s to 1960s era, qipao survives as everyday wear until the late 1960s era. Today, many Chinese brides will choose modern style qipao or longfeng gua as their traditional suites on wedding ceremony. Next slide. In the film Last Caution, the protagonist Wang Jiazhi changed 27 cheongsams in the film. The cheongsam and the scene echo each other, and the retro aesthetics of each frame make people reluctant to look away. Last Caution evokes people's memory of cheongsam. In the mainland, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and even in the fashion industry around the world, there is a cheongsam fever coincidentally. Even Hollywood often discussed about the protagonist wearing after the film was released. In fact, Last Caution also promote the development of the fashion industry. As you can see from the picture, they are all improved and redesigned cheongsams. In nowadays, cheongsam's design are emphasizing on comfortable and having more styles. Next slide. Shanghai is the place where merchant ships gathered. In the 1930s era, Shanghai had become China's economic center, a well-known financial center and trade center in the Far East. Therefore, we can see that Shanghai is more modern than China other states, and this also affected Shanghai fashion culture. Shanghai merged its own with Western culture. Influenced by the Western countries, women in Shanghai start wearing hats with cheongsam. They also wear some accessories as embellishments, as you can see in the first picture. We can also see that men in Shanghai during 1940 era are usually wearing coat, since men fashion in Shanghai are also influenced by the Western countries, as you can see in the second picture. The combination of Chinese and Western is a major feature of Shanghai ladies wearing cheongsam. There are many ways to dress, and most women like to wear cheongsam with Western clothing. For example, wearing Western style coats, fur coats, sweater, vest, etc. outside the cheongsam. When Wang Jiazhi goes out, she often wraps a windbreaker over her cheongsam and sometimes wears a scarf. This coat is fully in line with the trend indicators of this season. It is the most outstanding one in the world film, as you can see in the second picture. It is solemn and lovely. It not only appeared in the old Shanghai in the 1940s era, it was luxurious even in the 21st century today. It loved by fashionistas. Coat and cheongsam, a fashion sense of a mix of Chinese and Western. This dress is the most frequent coat. Under the tough style coat, there is a sexy and charming cheongsam. Such a strong contrast effect represents the gentle Wang Jiazhi in the film. Under the cold face, it is a passionate hurt. Through the style and material of the cheongsam that the Wang Jiazhi wears, the director points out the changes of the environment that the Wang Jiazhi faces. Next, we will go to the scenes of Last Caution that will show you more about the fashion culture in China.
In the film of Lost Caution, it has numerous scenes that show the traditional yet beautifully worn clothing called cheongsam. Last Caution is a film that portrayed on how Chinese people were in 1940s. Despite most of the people wore Western clothing like suits and windbreaker, the female cast in the film wore cheongsam as what most Chinese female wore during that time. In the first scene, it can be seen that the female lead is wearing a blue flower pattern cheongsam to impress the male lead. And the second scene shows two Chinese female wearing a black and gray cheongsam that can be seen as more high class. Next slide. The third scene shows a woman playing a Chinese instrument while wearing a simple green cheongsam with tiny pink flowers on the side. And next, scene 4 shows a group of women playing mahjong, a traditional Chinese game, while all of them are wearing different kinds of patterns and colors of cheongsam, which shows the diversity of cheongsam. Next slide. Scene 5 shows the female lead wearing a green cheongsam with leaf pattern on it. This scene was when the female lead is trying to seduce the male lead. And last, the sixth scene is where the female lead is acting in a play portraying how female those days waited for males come back from the Japanese War. In this scene, the cheongsam shows the most original color of the cheongsam, which is red and simple as well. In addition, the length of the cheongsam sleeves have shortened to 2 to 3 inches. It was almost like without sleeves, and that has become a specialty in the history of cheongsam. And due to the sleeveless cheongsam, the armpit hair of the female lead could be seen when she was singing a song called 天涯歌女 to Mr. Yi in the film, and it has become a hot topic in the film. As what the director Lian has mentioned, Shanghai women during those eras do not shave their armpit hair. Back to Jing Tian.
Thank you, Brian. After talking about three films fashion culture in 1940 era, now the important thing is we will talk about the comparisons between the three films. Life is Beautiful are showing the class differentiation. As you can see, people are distinguishing the rich from the poor by their dressing in the film. In Italy during 1940 era, fashion design are only for the upper class people, but not for lower class people. Upper class people are wearing advanced clothes that show their status, but lower class people are just coarse clothes. On the other hand, Coco before Chanel and Last Caution are advocating feminism. However, there are some difference between Western country and China in showing feminism. In Western countries, for example, France, advocates a different style from men to show that females are independent and can be powerful also. For China, they will imitate Chinese men's robe to show that females are independent and have an equal status with male. Next, let's compare their fashion style. During 1940s era, Italy's fashion was lack of originality in design since it is influenced by French fashion, while French fashion are creativity and start creating luxury brand. For example, Chanel. As you can see, there are a lot of luxury brand in the film Coco before Chanel. In China, their fashion are more retro as they continuously improve the clothing of previous dynasty. For example, qipao is originated from Qing dynasty. Also, during 1940, China fashion design are the combination of own culture and Western culture. At the time, China began to absorb and learn from Western culture after World War II. The fashion designs between Italy, France, and China during 1940 era is also different. Italy's fashion design is more on comfortable and versatile clothing, while France's fashion design is more on full skirts, high-heel shoes, and fur coats. However, China's fashion design emphasizes on showing female stature, as we can see qipao is getting tighter to show the beauty of female nature. Next, we will go to the effects of the three films. These three films actually bring effect to the fashion industry. Fashion industry start to rise and develop after the film release. Since these three films, fashion clothing design are successful and wonderful, as well as they successfully bring their fashion design to the international. During 1940s era, the Italy, France, and China actually have more time and money to develop fashion design. This is because after World War II, American money poured into Italy to revive the economy, while France pay attention to the development of arts as their designers are allowed to display their artistic talent without any restricted. Moreover, after the revolution of 1911 and modern improvements in China, the traditional dress craftsmanship of Cheongsam is retained. The impact on fashion industry of these three films is fashion globalization, as the fashion designs in the film appear in international fashion shows after improving, innovating, and imitating the film's fashion designs. Lastly, Life is Beautiful's impact on society is bringing the awareness of class equality to the people. Fashion shouldn't be the tool to distinguish the rich from the poor. As for Coco Before Chanel's impact on society, is showing the artistic creativity in France. By comparison, France is more mature, freely and independently on fashion design earlier than Italy and China. As for Last Caution's impact on society, is showing the beauty of female. In previous dynasty, the fashion for upper class female are used to show the beauty of female figure. Female should have confidence and love themselves. That's all for our presentation. Thank you.